This video on HYDRAA covers the details of full tank level, buffer zone, powers of HYDRAA, legal validity, legal challenges, impact on poor and middle class residents and how to move forward. According to the law, construction or development activities are prohibited in the water bodies such as rivers, nalas, or within the full tank level of any lake, pond, cheruvu or kunta or shikam, unless explicitly permitted. FTL of a lake or cheruvu is measured and certified by the Irrigation Department and Revenue Department. There are more than 185 lakes within the GHMC jurisdiction. There are approximately 2,857 lakes within Outer Ring Road, ORR, a 158-kilometer expressway encircling Hyderabad. A study by the Telangana State Remote Sensing Applications Center, TRAC, found that many lakes within the GHMC area have witnessed significant reduction in area due to real estate and infrastructure developments. Construction is restricted in FTL and buffer zone to protect natural water bodies. To ensure that no construction interferes with the natural flow of water. To mitigate risks of flooding and waterlogging. To protect environment. To prevent encroachments. Full tank level refers to the maximum water level that a reservoir, lake, tank, or other water body can hold without overflowing. It indicates the highest point that water can log or traces of water can be found in the lake or water body. Full tank levels of some important lakes are furnished. What is buffer zone? Buffer zone is the designated area around the FTL that is kept clear of any development. Buffer zones help absorb floodwaters, reducing the risk of inundating urban areas. Maintain the health of water bodies, preventing pollution and preserving the local ecosystem. Area of buffer zone vary depending on the type of water body, lake, tank, river, etc., the size of the water body, and the nature of the land use or construction. Area of buffer zone in respect of large lakes, reservoirs, or water storage bodies used for water supply or irrigation. National Green Tribunal, NGT, guidelines specifies buffer zone as 50 to 100 meters around large lakes or reservoirs. For lakes in urban areas like Hyderabad, a buffer zone of 30 meters is commonly maintained around large lakes. For smaller water tanks and village ponds, the National Green Tribunal, NGT, generally recommends a buffer zone of 10 to 15 meters around smaller water tanks or ponds. In Telangana, for smaller tanks or ponds under the HYDRAA program, the buffer zone is typically 9 to 15 meters, depending on the size of the tank. For rivers and canals, National Green Tribunal specifies a 100 meters buffer zone along the banks of major rivers. Central Pollution Control Board guidelines specifies a minimum of 50 meters along smaller rivers or streams. In urban areas, state-specific regulations, like in Telangana, can reduce the buffer zone to 30 to 50 meters to accommodate existing development while ensuring minimal environmental impact. For catchment areas of reservoirs, Telangana state government has issued GO number 111 specifically to protect the catchment areas of Osman Sagar and Himayat Sagar reservoirs. The order restricts certain types of development like large-scale industrial activities within a 10-kilometer radius of these reservoirs. For other reservoirs, a 100 to 500 meters buffer zone is stipulated depending on the size and function of the reservoir. Geo number 168 reinforces the need for 30-meter buffer zones around lakes and other water bodies in Hyderabad. It mandates regular checks and removal of illegal encroachments within these buffer zones, ensuring the free flow of water and reducing flood risks. Residential and commercial developments near water bodies. Under Telangana's Municipalities Act, 2019, 30 meters of buffer space from the FTL is typically mandated for construction near lakes and large tanks. With a 12 feet wide walking or cycling track within the 30-meter buffer strip. For smaller water bodies, tanks, ponds, the buffer zone can range from 9 to 15 meters, depending on the local regulations. In flood-prone urban areas, municipalities may impose 100 meters of no-construction zones near riverbanks to minimize flood risks. Roads, bridges and other infrastructure. The buffer zone distance for public infrastructure projects like roads and bridges near water bodies is usually determined by environmental impact assessments and the specific nature of the project. For most cases, a buffer of 15 to 50 meters from the FTL is maintained to allow for proper drainage and avoid environmental degradation. Agricultural activities, although less restricted than urban construction, are frequently regulated to prevent water contamination from pesticides or fertilizers. It is recommended to maintain a buffer zone of 50 to 100 meters from water sources to ensure safe agricultural practices and prevent pollution runoff into water bodies. Summary of buffer zone under various scenarios. Following are the existing legislations which control constructions within buffer zones. Telangana Municipalities Act, 2019, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1974, Hyderabad Metropolitan Development Authority Act, 2008, Environment Protection Act, 1986, National Green Tribunal Guidelines, the GHMC Act, 1955. Existing laws provide the necessary framework for regulating, penalizing and even demolishing unauthorized constructions. Telangana Municipalities Act, 2019 provides for taking action against illegal constructions. The Act regulates constructions in urban areas, including FTL zones, if such areas are under the municipality's jurisdiction. According to the Telangana Urban Areas Development Act of 1975, any unauthorized constructions that deviate from approved plans or are located within restricted zones, such as the FTL and buffer zones, are subject to enforcement action. Section 23 of Telangana Water, Land and Trees Act, 2002 deals with prohibition on constructions within the FTL and other specified areas around water bodies to prevent encroachment and environmental degradation. Gives powers to demolish illegal constructions. Imposes restrictions on activities that could harm water bodies. Under the provisions of Environment Protection Act, 1986, the state can regulate and control constructions that affect environmentally sensitive zones, including lakes and wetlands. HMDA Act, 2008 has powers related to urban planning, enforcement of development regulations, etc. HYDRAA, Hyderabad Disaster Response and Asset Protection Agency. To include all urbanized areas within Outer Ring Road of Hyderabad, a single, unified agency for disaster management in the Telangana core urban region, HYDRAA has been constituted wide GO-MS number 99 dated 19th July 2024. It is a dedicated agency for planning, organizing, coordinating and implementing the measures for preparedness and prevention of urban disasters. To protect assets of local bodies and government such as parks, lay out open spaces, playgrounds, lakes, nalas, land parcels, roads, carriageways, footpaths, etc. from encroachments. Removal of lake encroachments in coordination with GHMC, other local bodies, HMDA, Irrigation Department, Revenue Department, etc. To inspect private premises for building and town planning regulation or removal of dilapidated structures endangering public safety. To take penal action on the violations of advertisements which are in deviation or not authorized. Taking up of disaster response and relief work in case of any disaster or emergency. Inspection of premises and issuing of fire no objection certificates under the provisions of Telangana Fire Services Act, 1999. To coordinate with regular traffic police for traffic management in times of disasters with particular emphasis on traffic jams in water-logging areas, road-damaged areas, disaster-prone areas, storm water etc. during heavy rains. Overseeing 27 urban local bodies and 51 gram panchayats along with outer ring road. Using CCTV cameras to monitor water bodies. One of the main goals of HYDRAA is to protect Hyderabad from urban flooding, which has become a major issue due to the shrinking size of lakes and tanks. The restoration and maintenance of buffer zones help mitigate the risk of flooding by allowing excess rainwater to be absorbed by the lakes and spread into the buffer zones. Area reclaimed by HYDRAA as of September 2024, 166 structures have been demolished and reclaimed approximately 43.94 acres of encroached land. Reclaimed 15 acres at Gandipet Lake. At Madhapur, the N Convention Center was demolished, reclaiming about 4.9 acres. At Rajendrangar, about 12 acres have been reclaimed. Challenges faced by HYDRAA. Lack of awareness of FTL demarcations and buffer zone regulations, leading to unintentional violations. Hyderabad's rapid growth has put immense pressure on water bodies, and balancing development with water body conservation remains a challenge. Legal challenges. Critics argue that the GO is merely procedural or administrative in nature. They contend that the GO does not have the authority to establish new legal powers that are not explicitly outlined in existing laws. In the case of HYDRAA, there is a lack of statutory or legislative support for the actions taken. Provisions of the GHMC Act are being made applicable to areas beyond the corporation limits. This is in violation of the provisions listed out in the Gram Panchayat Act and Municipal Act. Constructions done within FTL areas or buffer zones with prior government approvals. Demolitions are being carried out without providing adequate notification. HYDRAA version. Government approvals do not supersede environmental protection laws. HYDRAA has derived the powers of different authorities under various legislations. Adequate notices have been served before initiating demolitions. The Telangana High Court has raised significant concerns regarding the legality of some demolition actions taken by HYDRAA. During a hearing regarding a demolition in Aminpur, the court questioned HYDRAA officials about their procedures, particularly noting irregularities such as issuing demolition notices on a Saturday for a Sunday. The court emphasized that all actions must adhere to legal procedures. Specific guidelines were issued by the court for HYDRAA to follow before initiating demolitions, including examining ownership and the legality of permissions granted for constructions. Legal framework required for HYDRAA, amendments to existing laws or enactment of a new legislation required to define HYDRAA's role, powers, and jurisdiction, with legislative approval is crucial to avoid legal disputes. An ordinance seeking to add Clause 384-B to the GHMC Act, which grants powers to HYDRAA to carry out its mandate of demolishing the structures in FTL and buffer zones, received approval from the governor. The ordinance is seen as a crucial step in addressing ongoing controversies surrounding HYDRAA. Impact on poor and middle-class families. Many poor and middle-class families have settled in these areas because of relatively affordable land prices. They lose their homes due to demolition. Middle-class families may have invested their life savings in purchasing these properties, and demolition could result in a substantial financial blow. The cost of relocating could be beyond their reach. The social fabric of communities built around these areas may be affected. Long-established neighborhoods may be broken apart, leading to disruptions in social networks, education, and employment. Rush for alternative housing could drive up rental and property prices in other areas. The stress of displacement, uncertainty over future living conditions, and financial losses can lead to severe psychological distress for families. Despite having all approvals, they were deemed illegal due to environmental protection laws. In the long run, restoring the ecological balance of water bodies may prevent floods and other environmental disasters that typically affect poorer families the most. However, the immediate effects of demolition could overshadow these long-term gains. While the HYDRAA initiative may be crucial for long-term sustainability and disaster prevention in Hyderabad, its immediate impact on poor and middle-class families could be devastating without adequate safeguards, compensation, and resettlement plans. Conclusion and the way forward. Clear guidelines about FTL and buffer zones to prevent future illegal constructions. Need for stricter enforcement of regulations. Compensation and relocation policies for poor and middle-class people affected by demolitions, particularly for those with valid approvals. Encourage sustainable urban planning that respects natural water bodies while accommodating development. Area and distance of FTL and buffer zones of all water bodies to be notified in the newspapers and through TV channels. Thank you for watching. If the video is informative, please like, subscribe and share. S. Satyanarayan, Satya Videos.